Good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and call the board meeting, the March board meeting of the Burleigh County Water Resource District to order. Wendy, kick roll call, please.
Manager Mitchell.
Here.
Manager Reed.
Here.
Manager Jones.
Here.
Manager Smith.
I'm here.
Chairman Landenberger.
Here, we have a quorum. We will continue. Moving on to item 2 this morning, approval of last month's meeting minutes. You get a chance to review those on page 2, 3.
Move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Manager Jones and a second by Manager Smith to approve last month's meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Moving on to item 3. Any changes or additions to the agenda this morning? Hearing none. We have a motion.
To approve.
Yep. Okay.
Second.
Got a motion by Manager Jones and a second by Manager Smith to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it. Motion passes. Agenda is approved. Moving on to item 4, comments from members of the public not associated with the project. Not seeing any this morning. So we can move on to item 5, McDowell Dam. Essentially at this point, we are looking at sending the letters. I believe Michael and David worked through the finalization, right, David, of those letters.
That's correct.
And we'll have our executive session after this meeting to discuss those letters and when they'll go out and what's being stated in those. When Michael gets here, maybe we'll jump back to McDowell Dam and he can give maybe an update on that, anything that he's got on that memo for the water simulation. You know, he's been on vacation for a couple weeks, so. And then regarding kind of the bank stabilization and trail project, I don't know, Dave, do you know, did they bring any rock out there? Okay. 'Cause I think the load restrictions are going on now, so probably something we'll have to wait then, or you can discuss with Michael maybe when he gets here, but, okay. David, anything this morning you wanna, yeah, come on up. Morning, Dave.
Good morning. I just wanted to give an update.
Done.
I'd promised to provide you with the numbers. I didn't get them to you in time to include in your information in the packet, but just wanted to share that February was light, as we typically historically have seen, and you might expect out there with the weather that we have, but vehicle counts were 1873 and trail counts were 89. So, but that happens. I looked back at the data from last year and the year before, and that's typical. You know, June, July, August, we're looking at somewhere between 10 to 13,000 for vehicles and around 2,000 for trail users, somewhere in that neighborhood typically. So it obviously ramps up as the weather gets nicer. You know, once we get through our false spring and back into winter and then into real spring, maybe we'll see the numbers come back up. But the only other thing is we did quote out the sand for the beach as we had budgeted. I severely underestimated the volume or the amount for the sand, so we had to cut that short. So we'll have to do a little bit more next year. Okay. So I stayed within budget, but we'll still need to do some more sand. We were trying to get the sand, and you mentioned the fact that load restrictions were coming on. We tried to get the sand delivered before the load restrictions came on, but I think we just missed it because of the warm spell that we had. They came on, I believe, on Monday. Yeah. So we were trying to get it. We awarded the sand probably about maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, and we tried to get it, just slipped in there in time, and I don't think it was going to line out. So, but so they'll have to, excuse me, we'll have to wait until the load restrictions come off to do that. Otherwise, they end up severely lowering the amount of sand that they put in their vehicles, and then it's more truckloads, and then we pay more for a load, and we get less sand. So I said, no, let's keep the volume right, and we'll just wait. It's not, you know, imminent that we have it right away. And
right. So
makes sense. Yeah. Otherwise, the other things that we had in the budget for 25 were the 2 pedal boats. We've been looking at quotes. It's kind of interesting. Last year when we did this, when we quoted out and got some new new pedal boats, they delivered them right away. And we didn't want them delivered until April, May, and they came in February when everything was still frozen. And so we didn't really have room for them. So we're kind of slow playing the quotes. I think the suppliers want to get them out of their inventory, but we don't want them yet. But we want to get a good price, so it's a little bit of a timing situation. The other project that we had planned was adding the playground out in the park, and we had submitted that. So James is aware of this, but we had submitted that grant application, received a letter back, and there are presentations on the 26th with the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District and that's usually a 25% match. I think that, just trying to remember in my head where they are with the numbers. They usually try to do 25%, and sometimes they cap it depending on how many applicants they try to spread the money out. So I will be heading up there for that presentation. I'm going up for a Park District one as well. So it's not a big deal for us to do that.
Good.
That's all I had, unless you have any questions.
Any questions this morning? Okay, all right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dave. Hey, morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I'm here.
Look nice and tan.
Yeah, well, toasted. Side to side.
Anything on McDowell Dam that you want to add this morning? Any of the items?
Nothing in particular other than, I think you got the executive
Yep.
session? Yeah.
Yep.
Everything I got is in there, so.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, nothing else on McDowell Dam. We can move on to item 6, the financial reports this morning. Dennis?
Good morning, Chairman, board members. Pages 6 through 8 are your balance sheet and reserve fund balances and O&M and special assessment balances. So just going through the previous month, started out with the balance in checking of $1,291,445.11. We paid bills in the amount of $62,774.80. One note on that particular item is that last month's bills showed an amount of $1,825 payment for the Apple Creek bond loan payment. That was actually an error on their part, and so they tore up that check and we reissued them one for $25 less, so $1,800. So this number I just told you reflects that change. We had income in the amount of $388,730.58. Most of that was real estate tax, $292,000 or $293,000. We're actually tracking a little slow on real estate compared to previous years, 40% of what our budget is. So usually that's a little higher. A small amount of state aid, about $6,000. A little bit of interest. Reimbursements of almost $90,000. That is essentially rebalancing of our special assessments and O&M accounts as we talked previously. I think we still have maybe a little more work to do on the reserve funds and tidy up that whole conglomeration of funds into a more realistic approach going forward. And so we'll, Wendy and I think and James and I are tasked to do that at some point, so we'll have to get together and do that. Ending balance of $1,617,400.89 in the checking account. Reserve fund balance didn't change from the previous month of $700,390.88. So everything seems to add up. With that, I'd move for approval of the balance sheet as presented in your packet.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Manager Reap and a second by Manager Jones to approve this month's balance sheet. Any discussion? If not,
I
when,
think-
go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of thinking we got a little too much in the checking account. And maybe we should consider moving some of it into a CD or,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts, Dennis?
I don't know that we have any significant expenditures on the horizon. The Bravero Wealth account, which we have utilized recently, is liquid, and so it does earn obviously more money than our checking account does, and so not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I haven't given any thought about any amount. So we have, let me revisit that number. general checking at 1.36 million.
'Cause how much do we have in the reserve, or the other fund right now, do we recall?
The reserve funds?
Or no, for the, where we're getting interest on that.
Well, for the wealth.
Yeah, the wealth.
Yeah, that is it on our list, Wendy? Rivera Wealth Fund is 1,042,000.
Okay. So, you got thoughts, Kathleen, what maybe we should think about there as far as,
Well, I'm trying to think the projects that are coming up, and the biggest one we have is Burleigh University.
you know,
I would say, I'd take at least 3, if not 500, and move it over.
I like the idea of 3.
Yeah, somewhere in that vicinity, I see where Apple Creek is gonna cost us a little bit more, and we do have some cost share on that.
I mean,
Not a great deal.
to Dennis's point, it is liquid, so you can still move
Yeah.
it back.
I'd do half of it.
Yeah, maybe even half of
Yeah.
it.
A rounded half. What'd you say, it was 1.1?
1.3.
1.3?
Yeah,
Maybe
half,
go
I'd go
0.6.
for half.
Yeah.
600,000.
I'd go for half. Dennis, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's, I say it's totally liquid. We haven't done that yet. I assume it's just a phone call and it's transferred automatically and so, or immediately. And so, yeah, I don't have any, I could go, I'm supportive of half or, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Would you like a motion to that?
Yeah.
effect?
Yes,
would.
yeah, we'll definitely.
I would move that, we move half of our checking account balance into the liquid fund.
So before we go to that motion, do we want to, we had a motion out there to approve the balance sheet one?
Oh,
Yep.
okay, we'll
Nope.
approve the balance sheet
Yeah.
first. Okay,
Then
sorry.
we'll go, no, you're good, you're good. Wendy?
Manager Mitchell.
Yes.
Do I have a second on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Manager Jones.
Okay, now, the next one.
Wait, but,
Nope, you're not done.
not there
We're
yet.
not done yet.
Manager Jones.
Yes.
Yep.
Manager Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Landenberger.
Yes, motion passes.
Okay, now we can,
Okay, the next one is, let's take half of our checking account and move it into our,
Do you want a half or maybe just a round number?
Yeah,
Yeah.
approximately.
Maybe do 600,000?
So,
about
is that-
600,000.
okay, half would be 680,000 roughly.
Okay, 680,000.
Okay. 680,000.
I'll second.
Into the Bravera Wealth Fund.
Into the Bavaria Wealth Fund.
Yep, okay. All right, got a motion by Manager Jones and a second by Manager Smith to look at moving half of our checking account in the amount of $680,000 into the Bravera Wealth Fund to gain additional interest. Any thoughts on that? Questions? Hearing none, Wendy, take roll call vote, please.
Manager Mitchell.
Yes.
Manager Reed.
Yes.
Manager Jones.
Yes.
Manager Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Landenberger.
Yes, motion passes.
So,
So
Chairman
Dennis, you
Board,
wanna do that?
I'll do that as soon as I'm able, next day or
Okay.
so.
One quick question. What kind of interest are we getting on the bond?
Oh, shoot, I did ask that question here about a week ago. It's the low 4%. I think 4.1 sticks in my head,
Okay,
minus a 0.25%
Yeah,
administrative fee.
much better deal.
Still pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, good idea, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, we can move on to item B there, Dennis.
Yeah, profit and loss statement on page 9 and 10 of your packet. Everything appears to be in order. As I mentioned, the real estate tax, for whatever reason, seems a little bit low at this time of year.
Yeah.
40% of what we budgeted, but that can change, I suspect, as new numbers come in. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll catch up. But I'll move to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second,
Okay, got a motion by Manager Reap and a second by Manager Jones to approve this month's profit and loss statement. Any questions? Discussion? Hearing none. Wendy, take roll call vote, please.
Manager Mitchell.
Yes.
Manager Reed.
Yes.
Manager Jones.
yes.
Manager Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Landenberger.
Yes, motion passes. Profit and loss is accepted. Continuing on, we got some pledge securities in the
Yeah,
packet just for informational purposes.
They are.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Any questions for Dennis on the financial reports?
You're doing a good job.
Appreciate you. Good. Okay, we can move on to item 7 this morning. Yeah, update on the River Road, on the Kathleen, Michael,
Well-
Casey combination of the three.
Probably Casey, I've driven by it, we've got some work to do up there. And I would, I believe the highway department could probably take care of it. Casey?
Morning, Casey.
Morning, Casey with the Burleigh County Highway Department. This February, when everything went from negative 40 to 60 degrees, all the snow melted off on River Road, and where this box culvert is located, there is a natural spring that's underneath it. It does tend to ice in. We know we have to jet it out and steam it every year. Also, what's been happening is downstream of it, there's just been natural sediment deposit that has happened over the years. And it's just getting to the point, looked at it last year, we surveyed it, and we're looking at, okay, it's almost getting to the invert elevation of the downstream part of the culvert. We really need to start looking at, let's just do just general maintenance. We don't want to wreck the world. Let's just get the sediment out so it can just continue to continue downstream as it has in the past. And the culvert, we are looking at potential replacement of that, but that's more of a long-term plan with the county and roadway department. But with the spring, that's just not going to magically go away. That's more of our long-term solution. So we know short-term we're still going to have to deal with those portions. We just seen it hit faster, and it went up and over River Road. We had to close River Road down thankfully it was only a small amount of time because just wasn't a lot of snow this year. And with the fast warm up like that, that's where we run into the problem where it goes up and over the road. If it's a slow warm up, we generally have enough time. We're able to get everything cleaned out and everything goes through just fine. So because this area downstream of the culvert is actually outside of the right-of-way, the highway department, we actually have no authority to go out there and even do a project if the downstream landowner is willing to work with us. So we would need to come to a board such as yourselves to seek any type of permission, if it's okay with you, to be able to do that. And we're not looking for any reimbursement. It's whatever the absolute minimum legal amount is. If it's a penny or a dollar, we're fine. We don't need to get full reimbursement. It's just a maintenance item that really needs to get taken care of. We just want to make sure that we're covered under the law, because we tried to take a pretty liberal interpretation of the law on fixing problems, but especially when it's downstream water problems. But my excavator can't reach that far while sitting within the right of way, so I got to be able to operate with it legally to be able to go through. And are there any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Has that property changed ownership?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe the Ward family still owns it. We've had just preliminary contact with them saying there may be something coming up, but we didn't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because say we don't receive any permission to do that, there's no point just calling them and bothering them and asking them a bunch of questions.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of quick comments. We've gone out and taken a look at it. Nick has looked at it. Yeah, we agree with the clean out that the highway department's looking at. So no problem doing that. Full disclosure, we do represent the Ward family on some other properties that they own. So if it's okay with Casey, depending upon the amount of documentation he would like to have, if it's okay, you can just approve it in the minutes, and we will be in contact with the owner to let them know that this board has approved it, and also recommending that they allow the clean out to occur. But like I said, Casey, I don't know how much documentation you want to for that permission, whether you want a separate email or a letter or something for the files.
I would say we're probably open to what the board wants. If there's a resolution that's passed by the board, we can reference that back, that we have authorization. If you feel there needs to be just a documentation letter, that we're fine with that too.
I think at this point, as long as we have something in the minutes that we can discuss as a board, that we place in there. I mean, it is part of our, jurisdiction here to go out and, and clean out, water courses in Burleigh County and have those, make sure they're maintained to maintain the infrastructure. So at this point, I don't know if there has to be any monetary, Dave, exchange. At this point, I think it's more of a less that we request Burleigh County to assist in that clean out.
That's correct. That's what I would do.
I think we're good there. So I think if we do a motion and have that in the minutes, I think that'll be good enough for us. And then Michael can maybe contact the landowners and just make I'm not sure if they have to approve that.
Well, because it's work on their property, yeah, they'd have to approve it. Do we
Approve it?
need a formal easement from them? No, just
Just
authorization that
kinda
you can
more
go
of a-
in and do the clean out.
Okay.
And I think there's been some preliminary contacts already. I just need to get back
Yeah.
with Nick on the formality of
Okay.
this board's approvals.
Okay, so-
Yeah, we've spoken with Nick, and there was, Nick let them know this might be coming up, and who we're supposed to contact if it goes forward, and if we take the material out, we'd make sure we reseed it, get everything reestablished, because we don't want it eroding out either.
Yeah.
We want to work with them and be good neighbors.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you have to do some emergency clean out earlier, or it naturally went down as it culvert opened up?
So we went out there and we had the jet steamer, and we just
Okay.
jet steamed the culvert, able to cut through the ice. Then once the water started flowing, it just started cutting the ice down. But you could see it was spreading out in the field more, and we're kind of okay. I think we're really getting to the point we got to address just the natural sedimentation that's happened over time.
It's just,
And is
based on
that
those photos, you can see
downstream?
the silt.
That's
Yeah.
downstream excavation or upstream? It's downstream.
It'd be downstream. The upstream's going up the hill on River Road, and I don't want to touch that unstable slope if I don't absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Which is probably where the sediment's coming from.
Yeah.
You mentioned in the future something about the culvert. Tell me about that.
So the culvert, we would look at, it's just getting older, and it's just a part of our maintenance plan. Sometimes we just have to replace older culverts going through there. That's part of the long-term plan of looking at it and getting all that planned in. And then, once that's done, we would look at digging out and just admit the spring's there. Let's have rock, let's try and divert it to the sides and give it a path to go that's not just coming up through the culvert.
Good.
And then try and get everything stabilized so it doesn't sink with a massive bump there. I took Marcus through it, and we drove it at the speed limit, and that was a fun bump to hit at that speed limit.
Well,
That's
if
for
you
sure.
take a bump out of the road, I'll be really.
That is, I don't think we'll ever get the bump out, but instead of having it in 20 feet, let's try and spread it out over 120 feet, so you
That would
don't
be
notice
a
it
good
as
idea.
much. Yeah.
That would be acceptable.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Casey, on the clean out, you'd clean out the non-cropped area and
Yeah.
grade it out to the cropped area, and I presume that's what you'd do, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And then just Plan B. What if the family says, "No, we really don't want you to do that"? We should have. We can decide it right now that yes, we do want to do it, and yes.
Yeah, I don't see that they're going to have any issues from the
Okay.
preliminary
It's
discussions.
affecting their property
Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
floods again.
It's-
Yeah, right, yeah.
The main thing is, like Casey said, to, clean it out and reseed it so it's stable.
Yeah.
That's all that would matter, because it's
We're-
not in cropland, the part's going to be
So
clean.
it just becomes stagnant water. It doesn't flow down the road ditch because of the sediment.
Correct. It
Okay.
sits and it generally infiltrates is what's happening.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. All right, is there a motion then
I
to,
will make the motion that we proceed with the River Road cleanup
for Burleigh County Highway? Yeah.
and Burleigh County Highway, and then spread the west side of it so it does not pool.
Okay. You want to add that Michael would contact the landowner?
Yeah.
Into the motion?
Michael,
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
we'll add the
We'll be
Michael.
contacting landowner and let them know.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that. Can you?
Okay, we're gonna clean out the culvert on River Road to the appropriate specs that Casey has pointed out, so it does not pool on the west side, and contact the landowner, Mike Bench will contact the landowner to receive the appropriate permissions to do this.
requesting Burleigh County Highway Department to do the work.
Yes. I just think of you as one of us. So. You got it?
Part of it.
I think the big thing is just the request of Burleigh County Highway Department
Byron,
to complete the work,
maybe.
and cleaning it out, and then contacting the landowner.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Dakota?
Not recently, no.
Well, you might want to talk to him
Okay, you get her,
about that.
Wendy?
Give him a heads up.
Oh, on this clean out?
Okay,
Okay, we can do that.
Got it.
is there a second?
Oh, I need a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, a second, so we got a motion by Manager Jones and a second by Manager Smith to request Burleigh County Highway Department to clean out the River Road culvert as discussed and have Houston Engineering reach out to the landowner to receive the appropriate permissions.
Right.
Okay, Wendy, take roll call vote, please.
Manager Mitchell,
Yes.
Manager Reed,
Yes.
Manager Jones.
Yes.
Manager Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Landenberger.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Casey.
Thank you.
Moving on to Keelboat Park, we did get a request through the developer and their engineer regarding some work they're looking at doing down at the Keelboat Park on Missouri River there at that boat ramp. And,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, maybe I can clarify a couple things. They are, by request, email request anyway, looking at making some minor improvements to the existing bank stabilization down there. As it turns out, Bismarck Parks and Rec did some improvements after 2011, a few other things have done down there, so maintenance is kind of ongoing. But the maintenance was done in that case by Parks and Rec, but it is the City of Bismarck property. The City of Bismarck is in the process of transferring ownership of that property to the Riverfront Development owner, which is the Abraham Lincoln Foundation. To my knowledge, that transfer has yet to occur. From a couple of things perspective, the inquiry was, this is I believe it's a Garrison Oahe project. So from that perspective, the easement that was provided by the county in that case, not necessarily the Water Resource District, by the county, there's 100% maintenance requirement by the county of that easement, or of the stabilization facilities. I need to verify that, because obviously I've been out. The scenario that's out there, though, what always is concerning, and I've expressed this concern to the developer, their engineer, that easement is for the purposes of access to maintaining that. So anything that they do within that easement, regardless as to the size of the easement, whether it's 50 feet, 100 feet, or goes all the way back to the River Road, is under the purview of the county, because they're the ones that provided that easement. So that goes back to the standpoint, whatever they're doing out there, not just the stabilization, could potentially impact that access. So any work done within that easement area requires approval by the county to make sure that that access is maintained. It's no different than you're encroaching upon some sort of easement. What is that encroachment? Does that encroachment impede the easement? I think it's very straightforward. It's just a fact of going through the protocols. And that's what I've expressed. I've offered a meeting with the developer's engineer to, hey, let's just sit down and talk about this and what you're doing. As far as the Section 408, I do not believe the Corps of Engineers is going to have an issue with maintaining that facility. They haven't in the past. So the question is, do you have to go through this whole Section 408 process? I believe that they can avoid that with what they're doing and requesting, and that's the primary intent, but I just don't want to let the other stuff get ahead of itself. So we've made that offer. They were going to be providing some additional information. We have not seen that yet.
Yep, okay. Thanks, Michael.
Though maybe from the standpoint of protocol and timing, as long as, and there's two aspects to it. There's the development piece and the Section 408. The 408's been the request. If this board wanted to authorize the chairman and myself, or whoever, I can't remember the Missouri River portfolio, I think that's Roger, that a notice on the 408 that this board doesn't have any issue with the 408 side, you could probably get that moving forward, but the rest of the work in the easement would be separate. So just looking at timing for them.
Yeah, I I've already been getting the emails, Roger, so I could just continue to work with Michael on
Okay.
those.
I'm just thinking, simplicity side, we're coming into spring. If this board would authorize the notice that there's no issues with the 408 as far as they're concerned, though Commissioner Woodcox is not here this morning, I want to verify that it's their easement. It may need to actually go before them to give you the authorization to do that. And this board has done that previously, where something's been going on within their easements, and they just say, hey, Water Resource District, just take care of it for us. Well, we may need to be on their agenda, if you will, to authorize this board to act on their behalf. I should qualify that.
Okay, makes sense.
Thanks.
We get consensus?
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay, we'll hear back. Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Michael.
Yep.
All right, if no other items under drainage permits and complaints,
Not right now.
anything else regarding anything closed recently, so we can move on to projects this morning. Any updates, Michael, on the Hogue Island? I assume we're working on it that this spring when
Yeah.
time allows.
Haven't done anything on that at this
Okay.
point, so.
We can move on to the Apple Creek New Mary slide this morning, Michael. Roger.
We've submitted the reapplication of the HMGP grant based on the conversations with DES. I did get an email from Justin while I was gone that they were in the process of reviewing that documentation. So it's about as much as I can tell you.
Okay,
But it matches the information that we provided last month relative to the cost changes, et cetera, so. Okay?
okay. And then we did talk about trying to schedule maybe at some point when we kind of have more information, kind of more of a gathering of the stakeholders again.
Yeah, I think that, I haven't had a chance to talk to Mary before I left, but I'm thinking we'll do that right after the grant review. If
Okay.
they're in the process and the grant's moving on, then everybody needs to have a confab and say, okay, here's who's doing what. We kind of know, but it's nice to get everybody together and step
Okay.
through that.
Yeah.
I was curious, Casey, are you guys still monitoring that location, I assume? And Matt, now that the spring runoff is beginning, it's going to be a pretty, hopefully, quick and painless spring runoff this year, but.
Yeah, we're still monitoring everything, going through it, and just try to share the info as we get it.
Okay, all right, thanks, Casey. Okay, questions on that? We can move on to other old business this morning. I think I saw Mitch come in. I don't know if there's any updates on the CRS this morning, Mitch? Morning.
Morning, Chair Landenberger. Our scheduled meetings on the 6th and 7th of May. They blocked out 2 full day, or a day and a half for that. Tom Burney and can't think of his first name, Tyler Spomer from State Department of Water Resources is going to be there. So we're going to go over through the cab visit and get through all the documents that we've collected. And we're uploading stuff onto the website from Houston Engineering. We are in contact with the owner in Apple Creek Township. I've contacted the township to go and talk to them about seeing what they can do. And not sure if we're going to get any progress there.
Okay.
But we are ready to send him a letter. The state's attorney has drafted a letter. So just wait until we can see if we can talk to this fellow and see if he agrees to move it. There is room on his lot to move this, on his parcel, to get it out of the floodplain. It's a really close area, but I said if you wanted to move it there, we'd have to have a lot exhibit to determine where that floodway is, so they can stay out of that and, build it to this would be an agricultural building. It's unheated, no electricity. He keeps tree service equipment in there and stuff. So
Okay.
let's hope that he listens to reason. I don't know the path he wants to take. I think it could either go to court or get it to move it.
Okay.
And that's the big thing in front of us right now for me. If we'd have basically a year to get it out of there. So
Is there a concrete pad in that building?
no, it's dirt floor. It's a pole barn, 35 by 40 by 75 feet. It's easily moved.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to get a lull or some type of lift to get it out of there, but it's a pole barn.
Get curious, yeah, thanks, Mitch. Any updates regarding legislation? I know that there was maybe some bills that were looking to kind of help your situation. And
Yeah, HB 2027 is for the townships to sign on for the NFIP regulations. They have, if they want to be a part of that insurance group, they have to enforce the floodplain management ordinance.
so that passed the House?
It did. It's in the Senate
Senate
right now,
now.
but it passed unanimously in the House.
Okay, so something that likely should move forward. Okay, good. Any questions for Mitch?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mitch. Okay, well, speaking of the legislative session, Dennis, you want to do an update this morning on any bills that might be of interest for us?
Yeah, sure, just, they just had crossover, so not a lot of terrible amount of activity in the interim since the last got together, but just, House Bill 1020 is the Department of Water Resources funding bill, appropriations bill, along with, appropriations for, major water projects and general water projects as well. One of the things that they've incorporated into this is the ability for the State Water Commission Board to access a $200 million line of credit through the Bank of North Dakota. Basically what they call an overdraft privilege, so if they run out of money in one of their buckets that they could appropriate or as cash flow becomes a potential issue, similar to what happened in 2020 where there was no oil money coming in, they would have the ability to exceed their existing cash reserves by up to $200 million through that line of credit at Bank of North Dakota. So everything along with this bill seems like it's going forward without too many hiccups. One other discussion item, though, is one of the senators is talking about reducing the Resources Trust Fund allocation to water projects from 21% down to 15%. I don't know if that'll get legs or not, but if it does, I mean, it'll have a significant impact on money available for water projects in North Dakota. But like I said, that seems to be moving forward without too many hiccups, that whole bill. House Bill 1218 is economic analysis for conveyance projects. If you recall Sibley Island, we had to do an economic analysis, and it gets to be a little bit spendy and also cost some time. So we'll see how that goes. The bill put a threshold for any projects under $5 million would not have to go through an economic analysis. The committee passed it, but they amended it down to that threshold to $750,000. So now it's over at the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee.
And what was that threshold? Was there a threshold at all before?
The intent was $1 million when it was first enacted 2-3 sessions ago, but the State Water Commission Board amended their policy down to $200,000, and so they supposedly got permission through the Water Overtopics Committee. But there was nothing ever in statute that said they had the true authority to do that, but they did, so.
So, Mr. Chairman and Dennis, this one would actually mandate the 750, so they can't amend it again by policy. Is that how I was understanding?
Yeah, that's the other part of the bill, is
Okay.
that it would be a much more directly worded
Right.
statute.
I think that's the important part to clarify, that when DWR, the commission itself, went down to 200 by policy, that's kind of what set everybody back, because it was $1 million, they were happy with that.
Right.
So, yeah, if they mandate it to the 750, that's a step forward for the water resource districts.
So now it's in the Senate. I mean, if the Senate passes as amended, then it'll go to the governor for signature. But I guess the hope, at least from our perspective, is that there's some amendments that come through and it goes back to conference committee. A couple other ones, Senate Bill 2210, watershed boundary study that passed the Senate by a significant margin that would look at, we've heard about joint board pressures to, everybody has to join a joint board in the major watersheds. This bill would authorize a study to look at how that could be best administered rather than just pass it directly through legislation. Let's study and see how it could be best put together.
So, Mr. Chairman, question for Dennis. I've been a little bit out of the loop on that one. Followed it. Have they set up how that study is actually gonna be done? Who's responsible for it? Or is it just kind of open-ended with whoever somebody wants to decide to participate, participates, if you know where I'm going?
Yeah, I'm sure it would run through legislative management, and they would be the director of it. I presume they would engage all the
Right.
parties,
Okay.
but I think it would be their study.
Okay,
I
that's,
believe.
that's what I was just wondering, is how they established that, so, thank you.
Yeah. Let's see, just a couple more.
Is there one on permits?
Drainage
Yeah.
permits. There were 2 that failed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what those were.
There was one that was gonna change it from 80 acres down to 0. That one failed,
That one failed.
as far as the drainage.
Yeah, right.
That was, I think, a good thing, but.
Okay.
One that just came on my radar last night there's Senate Bill 2379. It's titled Eminent Domain Survey. It would require written consent from landowners before any surveying occurs, or written permission or a court order. So, which is, here comes Casey to talk about it. I guess it wasn't necessarily on my radar. Water Resource Districts Association of Water Users is going to oppose it. Garrison Diversions obviously affects them probably as much as anybody. They're opposing it, so come on up, Casey.
That thing shocks me every time. It's going to kill me someday. Yeah, I actually have to give testimony tomorrow on that bill. Counties, I'm part of the legislative committee for the North Dakota Association of County Engineers. And we are testifying in opposition, but some of it's some clarification questions. Also, there's a couple interesting things in there. With that 30-day notice before you can survey, if you're starting in the spring, that's great. But one example project we're going to give them in testimony is last year we had a developer come in and say, hey, we want to do a gas station, and the traffic operations report said turn lanes are needed. Well, that was in October. Well, this year, if we had to give 30 days notice to all the adjacent residents, it wouldn't have been an issue. We could have went out and done the survey because it was a nice winter. We didn't have a lot of snow. This winter isn't our typical winter. So if we had to do that in October, do a 30-day notice, and you're talking mid-November, we probably couldn't have done the survey until snow melt happened. So we were just, it's unintended project delays that can happen quite massively. And it was also, it didn't seem very clear in the proposed amendment that's being talked about was, it seems like there's always an item that's missed in the survey and you have to go back out and get it. Well, do we have to give a new 30-day notice to go back out and do that, or is it covered under you have 90 days to get this done before you have to re-notify? And it's survey notice for eminent domain. Every project we have, we don't know if we're going to get into eminent domain or not. Our goal is to never have eminent domain, but sometimes just by design requirements or law requirements, we're into somebody else's property and we need to work through those types of things. And eminent domains are last resort. I don't think anybody really wants to have to do that on a governmental side. And so we would have to do that every time, no matter what happens on any project, because we just don't know where the project's going to go up front. One other thing we had in there that it said whoever the person in charge is of the project has to include their residential address. And our question was, by residential address, do you mean the person in charge's home address? Because I was going to just say, I'm not going to do that. We'll just go to the penalty phase on that one, because I do enough public input meetings, public hearings, and other things. I've had enough threatening phone calls to my family. I've had enough people come to my house and make threats. I'm not helping them find out. I'm sure they can find it easy enough if they really want to, but I have no problem if you want to say a business address that's located in North Dakota, because I agree there are some companies that we have a PO box that's good enough, and I don't want to say that's accurate. or good enough. It's, if you want to come to our place of business and have a discussion about that, how you don't like a project, no problem. We'll do that every time. That's part of the job. But it's coming to the residential home with family members, that's where we felt that's getting out of bounds on that. And we recognize they're trying to hit a delicate balance and trying to see what is a good protection for the public versus how do you serve that. And it's a tough decision, but how it was currently written, it just felt it needed some clarification, and some of the items in it, we just were if we're going to do this, let's just know what we're getting into, and that it can create project delays, which then increase costs, and how it affects some of the items on there.
I think this is a regurgitation of a bill that's been out in front of the past 3 or 4 sessions, and it's been killed each time. And I don't know. I was talking to a person from Garrison Diversion last night, and they said, well, we'd really like to just get this resolved rather than see it each session, and so hopefully there's a happy medium for everybody that can
Yeah.
live with.
Yeah, and trying to find that balance it's the real trick, and we understand where they're coming from.
Mr. Chairman, Board,
Thanks, Casey.
there was a legislative social last night I attended. Unfortunately, I think the North Dakota Petroleum Council also held a social last night, and so maybe a little fancier than the water one, I don't know, but we didn't maybe get as many as we had hoped, but there was still a good representation of legislative people and Department of Water Resources people, so
Good.
that's all I got.
Okay, any questions? We, tracking, Dennis, anything regarding some of the property tax bills or anything like that?
You know, that whole reduction in for water funding from the Resources Trust Fund is an offshoot of that property tax,
Yeah.
but discussion, because funding for relief would have to come from somewhere, but other than that, no, not to my knowledge, really.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dennis. Move on to the next item there, the permit in your packet there. So the reapplication, it was terminated?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just background information on those, anytime you start a project, a lot of times you'll have to have the NDPS
Yep.
erosion control permit. Typically, those are applied for by contractors, and realistically, it should be the contractor that closes those out. However, because you are the applicant, you end up with the paperwork in the end.
Yeah.
It's not complicated, you just mark it, check it, and submit it, so that's been taken care of.
Yeah, just kind of close the whole
Yeah,
file.
close it out.
Yep.
So.
Okay. And then we also, I don't know, Mike, if you want to continue on with that one regarding the beneficial use forms that we submitted to the Department of Water Resources regarding our permit for McDowell Dam.
Yeah, on McDowell Dam, I had a conversation with the permit individual, and then, of course, I was referred to the hydrologist, just who's up there. The McDowell Dam permit has reached its extension limit, and their comment now is, hey, all you need to do is basically reapply for the permit, and we'll give you an extension. But their choice on the extension, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, or whatever, is going to be based on an evaluation of the watershed. In other words, are there other applicants out there who are waiting in line? Are there other uses that are potential out there? So in other words, does yours still stay at the top of the list because you haven't done anything as of late? So we put together some documentation and says, hey, here's what the Water Resource District is doing. You're in the process of securing easements. You evaluated things in the past. I did tell them that we will have the updated evaluation memo, which we'll talk about after a little bit, of the analysis, the hydraulic side. We're unaware of any other demands on this system for Apple Creek.
Okay.
So as soon as they get the memorandum back, they'll do their own internal evaluation on what period of extension to do that. And there was a letter submitted on behalf of the board for that extension as well, so.
Yep. And then I even filled out like an online electronic.
The use
version
report, yeah.
yesterday too,
Okay.
so we should be in there for sure. So,
Isn't the approval of the extension in the book?
There's not an approval of the extension unless the Water Commission submitted something.
no, it was basically just our application to do that, our information, so. There's notification they gave us back in February that we had X number of days to submit,
To
so.
do it.
And the water use report was also submitted too,
Yep.
which is effectively zero. That's an annual report that's
Yep.
been submitted. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. Any questions on that? If not, I don't know, Mike, if you want to give an update, but yeah, Houston won an award through the North Dakota NSPE.
Through NDSPE each year, the local Society of Professional Engineers requests applications for projects for awards, Project of the Year. Hogue Island won that this year for the Hogue Island bank stabilization work, which appreciate all the efforts of the board. That was one of the, I think the award came from the standpoint it was an extremely interesting project, complicated in a number of different factors. But that award will now be submitted to the State Society of Professional Engineers for consideration for the state award too, so.
Yeah, the whole packet, it's kind of a nice kind of summary and a write-up of the entire project. And so it's nice to have that too, so congrats, Mike.
Yeah, is there a ceremony or is it already occurred?
Well, the chapter meeting happened real quick. It was actually while I was gone, so I was gonna try and notify everybody and
At the banquet.
it didn't happen, but I believe I will double check that we were looking at getting a plaque for the board as well. A duplication, you really don't have a place to hang it, but one of the board members can take it with them, so.
We
But
should
again-
probably notify Randy too.
Give
if
it to
she'd
Randy,
like to-
yeah.
Actually, I think I did, but I was in contact with Randy while I was indisposed, but I will get back to him, let him know for
Yeah.
sure, so.
Okay. All right.
Actually, I think that was the email that was supposed to go out, but email down there is kind of interesting. So, put it that way.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Moving on to the low-key contract, I don't know, Kathleen or Michael, this is regarding, the maintenance assistance through it with Travis Johnson, his
Yeah,
contract.
I did not, just, Mr. Chairman, real quick, and Kathleen, I did not have a chance to really review the contract, though I did see what Travis was basically saying is, here's the contract, here's the document, here's my numbers, which the board can, maybe consider, but that he was still waiting for his insurance
Yeah.
certificate.
Yeah.
So that's what's kind of on hold at this point.
Yep,
And I did try to get a hold of him yesterday, and apparently he was terribly busy because I did not get a call back to see what the real holdup on the insurance is,
okay.
because that insurance is readily available. So,
Okay. I think he did update this labor and equipment rate
Yes.
sheet
Yeah.
too as well.
Yeah.
That's in your packet
He
there
did.
on page 88 too, so you can just get a sense of what you'd be looking at.
well, and his
For lump sum.
prices are pretty much what he's been charging.
Yep, good. Okay.
The other one that Travis had in his email, and this, given the light runoff that we have,
Yeah,
I'm not overly concerned about, the immediate nature of the O&M reviews in the spring, because we're not in any flood threat. So,
No.
but I do think that would be appropriate to do as soon as the conditions permit and the insurance is in place.
Okay,
agree.
all right. No other questions on that. We can move on to the next item, the state bonding. So I know there was some emails going back and forth. I think you got initial one from Sean Fredericks regarding kind of individual insurance or for board members, or then also what we have coverage for the board
Yeah,
itself.
correct, Mr. Chairman. There are two different things going on in terms of insurance for the board. One are the individual board members' coverage, which is handled by NADERF. The other one is for the board as an entity, and that is at no charge through NDERF. But there's an application that needs to be filled out. We fill it out every 2 years. And I've talked to Wendy. Wendy's got the application, so she can speak to that, but I'm assuming she'll provide that filled out application to the board. We simply send the application in, and that will ensure the board as an entity.
Sound good? Consensus?
Yeah,
We do this
consensus.
every couple of years, so.
Yeah.
Is there a deadline to get that submitted? Do you know?
What?
Is there a deadline to submit that or not?
I think we missed the deadline.
Last fall, I think, or something.
Yep.
maybe. Yeah, so.
Because we did have the coverage and then we missed the deadline and it expired and that's why we have to do it now.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. consensus then, go ahead and Wendy, and then, yeah, if I have to sign that or Dennis. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, as always, and you got additional information if you, regarding any plats, stormwater management permits from Wendy. Looks like we got one in there for Summit Point. I don't know, Casey, maybe have him come back up again and maybe just give us a quick update, kind of where that one sits. I know it was a lot of information going back and forth a few months ago, but morning, Casey, again.
Morning. This one's Summit Point Second Subdivision. It's within the existing Summit Point First Subdivision. They're just combining 2 lots into 1 lot.
Oh.
So it's really no net change. They'll just have 1 approach culvert instead of 2 unless they put in for a second approach permit going through there. So this one's very straightforward. We just asked them just write a very short 1-page, 1 paragraph, just documenting that there's no change from anything. The other parts we talked to them about was they're looking at Summit Point Third Subdivision and Summit Point Fourth Subdivision. They're little add-ons to what they already did. Part of the first subdivision stormwater management plan covers parts of each, but where you just have to, in your new stormwater management plan, you just have to reference the old one for the other parts, but you still have to prove that there's no negative effects to downstream landowners. Going through that, I think they were hoping they could just reference the stormwater management plan and that was it. And it was no, and once you plat in a new area, it triggers the full platting requirements and stormwater management plan requirements at that point. So,
Okay.
yep.
Any updates on the DOT permit for Summit?
Sure. I talked with the Department of Water Resources, and they're very good to work with on there. They said because it's sheet flow and it's more than 80 acres, that a drain permit has to be applied for. And I was, well, my understanding is from the Century Code, it's you're draining pond, lake, wetland, something on that side. And it does say or sheet flow, and they interpret it as or sheet flow means it applies because sheet flow happens in this area. And that we don't, and their policy is you have to have a drain permit for anything like that, that if you're not within a city or a municipality with a stormwater management plan. I informed them I agree, I'm not in the city, thank goodness I don't have to deal with that. But we do have a stormwater ordinance that applies in the county, and we've had that for some time. And as well, it still goes back to the Water Resource District. Now, I understand your guys' opinion on that. How our county board has chosen to do it is, why do they want the Water Resource District to hire a consultant to review and go through all these things when we already have engineers on staff that can do this? And I told them, we're more than willing to sign the permit. We went through everything, and I took them through what our ordinance was, took them through our process of how we go through everything, how we go through the plans, make sure everything matches. Then we actually verify everything in the field to make sure it matches all the way through. And we do all of that before we even allow them to record the plat, before they can even start selling lots. That has to be built out 100%. It seemed like that was a lot of new information for them, and he was, well, I think I need to go talk to a few of our people, see how that goes. Well, they had a good conversation. He said kind of the short version of a very long conversation was you still need to apply for the drain permit. They're going, and I had sent them copies of our stormwater ordinance, and they said that was new to them, and they're looking at changing their policy not to have just stormwater ordinance in a municipality, but if a county has one also. They said for this project that they can't get that policy change done in time. And speaking with them, it was for the drain permit, it was okay, include the approved stormwater management plan, include the approved plans that were submitted and everything that's gone through. And they'll start the process. They said they don't know for sure until they get into it, but it'll probably start their 30-day comment period, which I would expect it would. And they'll go through that. They will then work with the Water Resource District because they'll want you guys to sign off that it's approved. And I said there might be an agreement to disagree on that interpretation. And once again, the Highway Department, because we do go through it in such detail and go through the entire process, we're more than willing to sign the permit. It just seems like this is your DWR policy versus a county policy, and I think we can find something that works to be able to move forward. on that, but I communicated that to the developer that they need to apply for that and get that in on Friday. We went through a lot of that. I don't know if I haven't seen anything where they've actually submitted it yet. I think they're just trying to make sure they have everything together, fill out the permit, get that submitted, and then we'll start the process that DWR goes through for their permitting, and we just go from there.
And Mr. Chairman, and I'm pretty sure Dennis is aware of this, the there's been issues up in Ward County as well with the city of Minot and even drainage within the city relative to the permit need. The permit need basically, it'll either be a statewide or interdistrict significance or not. This one won't be because there's no statewide and there's no interdistrict scenario. So it's just a simple drainage permit, which you've dealt with in the past, but very infrequently. The permit and information will come back to you and you'll just authorize the drainage permit or not. In this particular case, with all the evaluation that Burleigh County has already done on behalf of the county, I'm pretty sure this would just be an approval of the permit when it gets here. I wouldn't call it a full formality, but it's just procedural that's in nature that would have to go through. So I don't see any issues at our end on your behalf relative to this one. But it is going to come back to you and you will have to approve it. But it's different than the DOT thing, so.
Yeah, we should get that, and I don't know if we need to, we can probably just deal with it at our next meeting, I would say.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Because, like, I agree, we won't need to go through it in detail, they've already done that.
Yep.
And so,
Mr. Chairman, in some ways, this is made far more complex than it needs to be. And whether or not the board authorizes it, which has its own meaning legally, we'll just have to see. As of yet, Casey's been handling all of this. I've heard nothing from any DOT or anybody. So at some point, if they wish to contact the board as to what they want to do, that's fine. But until then, the board has already made its decision. It checked the right box. It's really simple. The county has the authority to do it. Casey knows more than he ever would want to know about this particular project. It's a done deal. We'll see what they come up with next. But if this is to be an authorization, we'll look at what the word authorization means. We'll look at the boxes that we checked, and then we'll have a response to them.
The interesting thing about this one is this is not the DOT permit. This is a separate drainage permit. So there are two independent items. You're right, Dave, on the other one. I don't know where DOT is going to go on that one in particular, but I think actually the DWR is probably having conversations on that particular authorization as well. But this is a separate drainage permit.
I
This
see.
one's pretty straightforward. as
DOT
I
with
see
that
it.
road crossing permit, where does that one sit, do you know?
It's the right to drain within to the right of way permit, and they want to wait for the DWR drain permit before they go forward, because they're, well, if that's required, they want to weigh that, and then they'll say, that had to go to the Water Resource District, you guys need to authorize it, because that's their policy as they've decided it to move forward. So it just seems like there's some competing policies, and everybody's trying to go, yeah, government's fun. We'll figure it out and deal with it.
It's always interesting when there's two left hands and two right hands. So, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I haven't seen them being anything negative. DOT has looked through it. They signed off too. It's just finishing the paperwork side and all the drain permit portions, so.
Okay. Any other questions for Casey?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Casey. Okay, we can then move on to the next item, the bills this month. Dennis, any?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, a pretty short list this month. One bill, it's a Parks and Rec is the majority of the total bill, but I went through, they all add up. I would move for approval of payment in the bills in the amount of $23,078.72.
Second.
Okay, we'll wait for Wendy to get back and we'll go ahead and move through that motion when she gets back here. But, Michael, I assume next month we'll have
Yeah.
double.
Yeah, we'll have a catch up. There wasn't an awful lot out there other than the monthly bills, so.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, we won't forget you.
What's that one? Like, no. Okay, well, yeah, as soon as Wendy gets back, we'll move through the bills and then we can move to adjourn and get into our executive session.
Just,
Any-
there was a question asked what the interest rate was on Bravaro Wealth, and I went back and looked at the email. I think it was 4.34% as of a week ago.
So minus the 0.25, we're still above 4.
Right.
So, which some of the CDs that we were getting there for a while were upper 4s, so low 5s, so that's still pretty good.
It might be advisable in the future if we get some money like we have, that a motion be made that we just automatically transfer it into a higher paying interest.
Yeah, if there is
If
such a
there
thing.
is, yes.
Yeah,
Who knows what's going to
Yeah.
happen right now with the economy.
yep. Okay, welcome back. So we did have a motion to approve the bills by Manager Reap and a second, I believe it was by Manager Jones, to approve this month's bills. And Wendy, when you get that caught up, you want to go ahead and take roll call vote on that, please.
Manager Mitchell,
Yes.
Manager Reed,
Yes.
Manager Smith,
Yes.
Manager Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Landenberg.
Yes, motion passes. Okay. Remaining items in your packet there, just some detailed information, mostly from the Bismarck Parks and Rec for their billing for the month.
Yeah.
And if there's no other questions at this point, we can adjourn and move into our executive session to consult with our legal counsel and our engineer on McDowell Dam. So we will now close our monthly board meeting to entertain a motion to hold an executive session pursuant to North Dakota Century Code 44-04-19.2 to discuss negotiation strategy with our attorney related to easement acquisitions in the McDowell Dam project.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion by Manager Jones,
Second.
second by Manager Smith. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. We are adjourned from our regular meeting and we're now moving into the executive session. Thank you.